committed to excelling in the way that he and his dad have. And we were laughing and going back and forth because I said, your dad looked like he was soul brother number one. And he started laughing. He was like, yes, yes, he was. And it's the things you remember about the folks that invest in you and make sure that you are good. So I wanted to say that this morning right out the gate. Let me take a break because the rest of it goes downhill. After that feel good moment, the rest of these stories kind of go off the rails. So at least we started there. You got your positive in, and when we come back, got to talk about some of the other things that are snatching the headlines, to include Nikki Haley in all her specialness, who said that America has never been a racist country.
Specialness?
Specialness.
We can't say retardedness?
No.
I can.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
We've grown, bro.
America has never been racist.
We're no, inappropriate. All right, family. We'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Before I went to the break, I said that this show might go a little downhill after talking
Might?
about the excitement of young Xavier and the connection between he and his bus driver and the trip to Disney and meeting Shakari Richardson, that whole excitement. Because, you know, we it's gonna be a long year. That's all I can say. It's gonna be a long year in relationship to politics. Nikki Haley, who I have talked about a lot in terms of her being the tightest candidate of the ones that were, making their way through the Republican primaries to try to secure a nomination from the Republican Party for president, U.S. president. And I thought because of her experience, uh, both as a governor, as UN ambassador, she has been someone that when you are looking to, figure out who's the most balanced, who seems the least destructive, Nikki Haley, um, at times has appeared to be that person. But true to conservative talking points and, you know, leanings in some cases, not every conservative. Not talking about every conservative, but the vast majority. Nikki Haley was asked in a interview uh, about the U.S. being a racist country, or she was coming at Joy Reid. Joy Reid had said, Joy Reid, who is a talk show host over at MSNBC, who had said that, look, Nikki Haley can perform and do whatever kind of number she wants to. The color of her skin, because Nikki Haley is of Indian descent, and I need to be more specific. I'll get her actual ethnicity in a moment. But Nikki Haley is a little brown child, while a U.S. Citizen born here in the States. But there are people that will not look past her ethnicity and her parents' lineage to be able to see her as leading the nation. And Nikki Haley was asked about this while she was on another show, and she talked about Joy Reid and her clearly live in different Americas. That she's been able to, rise to these different platforms in spite of being a little brown girl. But let's be clear. Nikki Haley looked like she got a tan. She don't look the same as like Joy Reid, who you clearly know is this brown child. And I'm not dismissing or diminishing Nikki Haley's ethnicity, but we know in this country that it's a whole bunch of people of varying ethnic backgrounds who do their best to pass themselves off as white as frequently and often as they can. And in many cases, they are allowed to integrate in that way. And while people are like, yeah, they're a little, they something else. They're not white. But, this is the group we get our doctors from. This is the group we get our engineers from. So we willing to let these people, infiltrate or be a part of the clique. I remember I was in a training, a DEI awareness training, and I was going through it as a participant. And a woman in the class, we were talking about how people of color are impacted by race and racism. And this woman, she shot off. She said, well, I'm Italian. And Italians have been, subjected to this and this and this over the years. And so don't tell me about being a minority in America. And, I just looked at her and I said, until you tell somebody you're an Italian, don't nobody know that. And there is no Italian box that you check on a job application. You check which box? Do you check the other box? No, ma'am, you do not. You check the white box. Stop playing with me. There is no Italian box for race on demographic information on American applications. Don't nobody ask you that. So who knows you Italian until you tell them? Now your hair is dark and people are like, nah, it's something going on there. But who knows it? And that is the point that is missed on Nikki Haley. Your experience, Nikki Haley, still will never be that of mine, of Joy Reid's. It will never be the same. And as you talk about your rise, Joy Reid is called. Read her bio. Ivy League education, read her bio. This isn't just some chick who they put a mic in front of and let her sit down like me. Read her bio. The girl is a boss. And then Nikki Haley, in the course of her weekend or her last couple of days chit-chatting, she makes the comment that America is not a racist country, and goes so far as to say it never has been. Now, see, these are the kinds of things that are disqualifying for me as someone who's trying to be in leadership, because the first role of being in leadership is the ability to tell the truth and to say what may be unpopular, but it's the truth. This foundation, the very foundation of this country, was built on racism. It was built on the backs of stealing land from indigenous people and taking advantage. It was built on the backs of imported and stolen labor of Black people. Like, what the hell is wrong with her? That you literally would go on national. You didn't learn from the Civil War, mess up, and that you wasn't really sure what the Civil War was about. It was about free. Like, stop playing, girl. The Civil War was about slavery and the Southern states that wanted to keep Black folks enslaved. Then you turn around in less than a week, and then you spit out that America has never been a racist country. See, let me help you with this. And let me help some of the listeners who will be like, well, Michelle, can the country be racist, or is it the people, some of the people that's racist? If I run an organization and I'm the CEO of the organization and I hold racist views, some people might say, well, C&B isn't a racist organization, just the owner. It's my company. If I'm racist, my company most likely will have racist practices and policies. If I'm racist, we need to understand how this stuff works. So if many of the founding fathers hold racist views, in fact, some of them even held enslaved people, if it walk like a duck, quack like a duck, look like a duck, it's probably racist. So the idea that this girl, and she sounds like Vivek Ramaswamy, like, boy, under no circumstances was nobody about to put you into the presidency. And see, that's the one thing about Black people, we able to just say it and tell the truth. Barack Obama was an anomaly. He had different things working for him. What did he have working for him? Because while Trump tried to make his name Barack Hussein Obama an issue, it was a dog whistle. Hussein, y'all, his name is Hussein, so that he could excite the base of Republicans and get the racists to, raise up, just like he just did on Nikki Haley by calling her Nimrata. Don't know anybody call Nikki Haley Nimrata. Don't nobody call her by her first name. Like nobody calls me by my first name. Nobody calls her Nimrata. Trump made a point to call her Nimrata this in the last couple of days because he saw her numbers. And so he wants to raise the racist flag alongside the Confederate flag, alongside the American flag, to incite white people who hold those views about whether or not somebody of Indian ethnicity should be president of this country. That's what he was doing. And so as this woman in all of her foolishness stands up and says, America's not a racist country, girl, please. If you can't tell the basic truths about this country, you don't deserve to lead it. Revisionist history, massaging, history to make people feel good about themselves, Don't nobody care how black people feel about the issue of slavery. We just got to protect and coddle and make sure that white folks is comfortable. That's all nonsense. All of that is nonsense. Don't nobody worry about how these black babies feel when they go to school and they open a textbook and they not represented. Or they know they got some parents at home that's educating them, and the stories that their parents told them is not the stories that's appearing in these textbooks. It's being glossed over, minimized. Oh, that wasn't so bad. What did I say yesterday? Slavery was an unpaid internship. Stop playing with people. And you got these people that you look at, and you turn around and you look at your mother. You know there was a time, Nikki Haley, that your mother would have been mistreated in this country on the basis of race. You know this, man. You know this. So anyway, that's just got me. Oh my God, I thought I was going to snap. But let me take a second, go to the phone line. We got callers in, checking in. So, hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning to you, Ms. Bryant.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Listening to you talk about that lady, I think that black people are not going to go to the voting booth and vote for somebody that they see at the corner store selling them overpriced products, jacked up taxes, extra tax in their debit cards. So every time that lady comes before black people, Nikki Haley, that's what she represents to us. Her and Ramaswamy or whatever his name is, that guy, those two people don't represent anything that is remotely close to progression or forward momentum for black people in any aspect. 9 of the original founding fathers were card-carrying members of the Scottish Rite Masonic Order, and the Black Prince Hall Masons were not and are not allowed to interact with the Scottish Rite, which is the white expression of that particular order. So it should not befuddle us about why America is the way that she is, what she stands for. She never stood for justice or peace, justice, equality, or anything like that for us as a people. Out of the original, I think it was the 13 nations, the 5 in there. How does it go? As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan states, talks about it. The seal of America, and I think there were 5. There were 5 nations. The Dutch, or the Swedes, the Dutch and the Swedes, the Scotch, English people, French people, Germans. Those people who put together the seal, the original seal of the United States of America, where it shows Moses being pursued by Pharaoh, and it has a lightning bolt. And it says something about, I think that regarding the future, I don't want to misquote it, but it has a statement regarding the future of that, symbolizing with the eye of there's an eye, an all-seeing eye there, symbolizing that even though people think that generations and time has gone on, and they think that what they have set in motion is perpetual, and it has a long-lasting existence. America is done. And when we really accept the reality of it, because the dollar is fiat money. It's worthless. It's not backed by anything but the military. And America, with these people who thinking that, people like that lady. Oh, this is one thing that I want to say about her. There was a cartoon that used to come on, I think back in the 90s or some time ago. There was this witch lady, or this cartoon about a witch. And I think she would turn really fat, and she had one tooth and a cob nose that hung over, and then she would turn real skinny.
Right.
And that's who she reminded me of as well. She's like a caricature. She's not going no further than Scott Walker or Rob DeSantis or DeSatan, Diablo, that guy. None of those people. Because black people, they think that we're stupid and we're so dumb and we look like actually like dust and get blown in any direction. But I think the winds of change are touching us in a way, whereas we're more critical and we scrutinize these wannabe people who just jumped off the boat. Johnny just got here and Joanna just got here, thinking that we just gonna walk with them in lockstep. So I know this for sure. No black person that I know is gonna go and vote for some lady that look like the lady that be at the corner store overpricing them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, bro. Appreciate the call. Got another caller. Hey, caller, what's happening?
How you doing, Miss Michelle?
Hanging in there, bro. How you doing today?
You in that nose. Go ahead, baby.
For real.
Hey, how y'all beautiful
nose.
people doing out there, and the beautiful souls, and you ugly souls too, with nobody being left out. Hey, Miss Michelle, help me out.
What?
Did you see, and did you get mad, and did you get with the there's this lady that had a fan mail only that used Martin Luther King Day to push her white, flat, so-called sexy body mold, and was using the quotes of Dr. Martin Luther King. I have a dream speech, and she was pushing it all on having a dream about her and flashing her body.
I haven't seen this.
Man, you Google that up, find it. I didn't even try to notice.
Okay, I will look for
name, but she was, and if no black people and even any of the kings don't jump on this quote or this lady's page and shut it down, I'm giving up on y'all black folks. I'm gonna just stick with my black folks, and I'm serious. I'm just gonna back up. And I got another one about you, hair hat wearing, weed, glue eyes. Ooh.
See, okay. Take a breath. You going hard. I appreciate the call. Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. Did somebody just send it to me? Wait, hold on. Let me see. Y'all silly. Oh my God, I love my community. y'all silly. Okay, so since he mentioned Dr. King, let me take a second and say this. And, bros get mad with me because, they like, Michelle, you do, Kieth right, you do be messing with brothers. And I'm like, you know what? It's because I have expectations.
Sexist?
I'm not a sexist, but I do have expectations. I came from a lineage of men who these bros did not play. They did not play about their family. They did not play about their responsibilities. They did not play about their race, about respect. I can't help, that was the thing I was going to say when I was talking about Hassan. And I was teasing him. I said, your parents is the luck of the draw. And some of us get, an OG like your dad. And some of us get like, like parents that be like, ooh, for real? This how you gonna start me off, God? Like my hands tied behind my back and one leg. This how I'm gonna start the race. And literally, because you don't get to choose who your parents are gonna be. It's the luck of the draw. And depending on who those parents are, it determines how easy or how hard life could potentially be for you. What kind of access and opportunities versus struggles and difficulties that you may have. And so I just wanted to work that in, but I also let me grab a couple of things. I wanted to go back too on the Barack Obama piece because I didn't finish that. And I said he has something different working for him. Everybody knows what that is. When they were able to elect a brother by the name of Hussein, his mama was white. Period. Point blank. Black folks got some because his daddy was black. White folks got some because his mom was white. So white women could easily go to the polls and vote for him and be like, oh my God, that could have been my son. And my love child with O.J. Simpson. That could have been.
Ooh, O.J.?
I'm just saying.
Wow, O.J.
Because he was fly back in the day. People was at him back in the day.
O.J.?
I'm just saying. But that could have been my love child. So Barack Obama had a different thing working for him. They showed pictures of his mother. And you saw, like, people saw themselves in his mom. People saw themselves in his dad. He was a very uniquely positioned candidate in terms of a man of color, a person of color, to run for office at the time that he did. And then you add on the Ivy League credentials, and it was like a gift package. Yes. I see a hand in the back of the room.
I see more Calvin Lockhart.
Yeah. What?
It's more Calvin Lockhart than OJ. Really?
Okay. Well, I give you that.
Just,
Come
okay,
on
go
now.
ahead,
Don't
go ahead.
act like folks were that OJ.
I don't know.
They was at him.
I,
They was at him.
only thing I
They
knew.
still at him.
Really though.
You know, soon as he got cleared, they were still at him. I'm like, OJ, you ain't learn? You didn't
Hey,
learn?
what Bruce
You
said,
shoulda-
he was like, "What up, fat man?" He's like, "What up, killer?"
Exactly. Like, you didn't learn? You know how to go sit down somewhere? So I just wanted to say that. But the other thing I wanted to work back when he talked about, the last call I talked about what somebody did on King Day. Charlie Kirk, if I could for just a second, over at Turning Point USA. Somebody said, OJ, not Dizel, Billy D.
Hey,
You can't come to Dizel because Dizel ain't messing with
Calvin
you.
Lockhart though.
But I'm just saying,
Biggie
you might
Smalls.
approach Dizel. That might be your dream, but you seen Dizel's wife. Dizel is not hollering at everybody. He's made that clear. I don't holler at everybody. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. That's the kind of girls. That's whatever. You remember the rap? I'm just saying. But okay, see, I'm not going to play with y'all this morning. Charlie Kirk, founder and executive director of Turning Point USA. He had been talking about, King Day. I'm about to blow Martin Luther King, his whole legacy, y'all little love for him out the water. I'm about to tell y'all he was trifling, and I got explosive information on him that's getting ready to tear down the memory of this person y'all have given a holiday to, and this civil rights fake icon. I mean, Charlie Kirk went all in. So his show comes on. Everybody that is paying attention to this post he had put out that he's going to blow out Dr. King, air him out, talk about, all kinds of stuff. He comes on, and who does he find? He finds a brother. He finds a black man that is willing to, on King Day, go on with this racist white man, Charlie Kirk, to dog Dr. King. That's who he finds. He finds this brother by the name, his last name is Ellison. I can't remember his first name. I'm looking for it. But he finds this dude to come on and say, Dr. King witnessed the rape. He didn't say Dr. King raped nobody. He witnessed the rape. Dr. King did this and Dr. King did that. And, people didn't even really like him when he was alive. A lot of people don't like you when you're telling the truth. A lot of people don't like you when they are forcing you to look at, hold that mirror up and deal with yourself and your fun. Okay.
It ain't cute.
A lot of people don't like you when you start talking about housing insecurity, which he did when he moved his family to the projects in Chicago. Yeah, a lot of people don't want to hear. There was a lot of black preachers didn't want to hear it because you about to, disturb the apple cart, bruh. You about to have these white folks upset with us. Stop that. Stop trying to get my parishioners riled up. We just gonna keep our head down and stay out Mr. Charlie way and hope they don't bother us. So Charlie Kirk goes and finds some black man to come on. And that's the reason why I be getting so frustrated with brothers. And it's not all brothers. It's not even 90% of brothers. But I swear, the 6-7% that be doing it, and it's sisters that do it too. Diamonds and lace and pearls, whatever their names was. Stacey Dash with her fool behind. I mean, it's sisters that do it. It's equal opportunity clowning going on. But it's just something about brothers that just drives me crazy when you participate in tearing down people from our community. And then it validates it. Tim Scott, what did I say when he was, running for president? And he gets on the stage and my mother told me about personal responsibility and not to be a lazy, shiftless Negro like the rest of you. Paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said.
Huh.
And as I bring up my pretend white girlfriend onto the stage to try to save my campaign before having to suspend it within the next 2 days, I just want to say that as a black man, yes, I agree with the white conservatives that black people are getting over on the system.
That was paraphrasing too.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
It just
Sound
sound
real
like
to me.
it. Did it sound like it? Did it sound like it?
Sounded accurate to me.
I'm just saying, the brother down in Kentucky who, too busy to investigate the horrible murder of Breonna Taylor because he's too busy posting engagement pictures to Mitch McConnell's niece. Like, come on, fam. Some of it just irk your soul and rubs you the wrong way. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but it does. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Quick talk about Stacey Dash. She got Jesus now. That's why people don't like her. But anyway, last night I volunteered to help the homeless. I was quickly told by a white person, "Oh no, they're not homeless. They're unhoused." I had an interesting conversation with a sister who is homeless here in Milwaukee. She moved from Cleveland, Ohio, back in 1999. She had a good home, good job, took care of everything, and now she's homeless. What happened, the revelation I got from it was this whole thing about homeless people being mentally unstable. They don't have homes. They don't have relatives. It's just it blew my mind, Miss Bryant. It's like rents are high here in Milwaukee.
Well, first of all, please call me Michelle. And let me just say this. There had been a push to change the terminology of calling people homeless to saying unhoused. This goes back that I can recall probably 3-4 years at least. And I'm sure longer than that. But when I really started paying attention to it, and it was the idea of it was to address the very thing that you're talking about. Because when you said homeless, it conjured up a certain kind of image in your mind. Somebody that was dirty, an alcoholic, a drug addicted. And so what they did was, in trying to use the word unhoused, they tried to humanize people and to say, look, these are people with a housing issue.
Right.
And so so I know it, like, as we kind of get used to new terms and like, well, no, it's homelessness. There is a rationale to it that people are like, we don't want folks thinking of all those negative things that we know people think of when you think of homelessness. This was a woman who had a job, who had a home, who had a good, situation, and something happened, whatever it was, and now she's in this situation. So I just want to at least say that was the thinking behind switching the terminology. It doesn't always work, but that was why it was done.
Right, because she has an associate degree. And one child, and her son, who I can say, such an intelligent young man, 11 years old, and it made me sad because he has to shoulder the burden because he knows what his mother is going through.
Right.
And for me, black kids in Milwaukee, they grow up too fast. You know why? Because they see their parents suffer.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And thank you for the call. You are so right. Oftentimes, and there's data to support it, studies that have been done that talk about how in a lot of cases, Black children, in particular children of color, they mature and have to mature at a whole lot earlier age. They don't get to be children because you are dealing with the issues that come with not having a stable home situation or living in a shelter, or you may have to, and this is not all Black children. Let me be clear about that. It's not even the overwhelming majority, but it's enough. The number is so real that it impacts us as a community overall. but you have to worry about the lights being cut off. I have young kids who will young adults, my friends, that I've known over the years, but they would talk about when we were young, they would talk about like coming home and flipping the light switch just to see if the lights was on. They would talk about opening the refrigerator and it was nothing in the refrigerator. They would talk about, like when everybody else was talking about new school clothes, they were getting nothing. There are kids who know all too well what it means to stand in food lines and go to food pantries. And a lot of your innocence is stripped away when you realize you start to learn early at 4 and 5 and 6 years old what the word afford means. We can't afford that. You can't get that. We have no money for that. So now I got to start understanding and processing what money means. I was thinking about my grandson, Atlas. I told y'all, somebody tried to give him $1 bill. Atlas didn't even know what it was. First, because he ain't used to seeing real money, because everybody uses a card. But second, he didn't have a concept of the value that you could go buy something with this, because everything is just given and bought for him. There are kids who know the value of $1 already at 6 and 7 years old, and they know we don't have one. I got to take a break. I'll be back. She's here. She's here.
Yes, she is.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Do I
Now,
have a savior song?
I want to make sure that what I see on her finger,
Yes.
the ring
Yes.
finger,
Yes.
looks like she belongs to somebody.
Yes.
But,
What's that song? I belong to you. You need to play some Rance Allen.
and she has fans in the studio.
They're fans in life. I was just talking about good people. You and your one track.
No.
What did you say
I'ma do
yesterday?
you like you
What
do
did you
me.
say yesterday?
I'ma do you like
got a
you do
one-track
me.
mind.
Beautiful sister walking in the door. Oh my God, she's coming, y'all. And I had
She
to run to
wasn't
get a
even
hug.
in the door.
I don't know where her husband at. I don't know if he listening.
Hey, wait. What was that? What was that?
Pull the
Cartoon.
mic down, bro.
Messy.
That's how you
just
do me.
messy.
That's how you
I
do
can
me
do
all
that
the
to
time.
you.
That's how you do me all the time. I
Yeah.
couldn't,
Messy,
resist.
messy.
But look, I'm gonna act right.
And you're sexist.
Yeah. I'm going to act right. I would like to welcome into the studio this morning someone that I'm gonna tell you, like on one hand, it feels like somebody we've been waiting on.
Oh.
Not
Ever
just
day.
in terms of getting to the station this morning, but when people talk about folks being put in the right place at the right time in the right moment to do the right work. And folks said, so I've been waiting on that person to walk through the door. We have ongoing conversations with Milwaukee County, the Office of Equity. And I have been someone that has not necessarily always been the easiest when it comes to the office because the work is so important. I understood why it was created. I know the value of the impact if this work is done right. And so there had been a lot of jostling back and forth in terms of direction, quite frankly, leadership, as we began to navigate certain personnel changes. And then even with the state coming in as a result of shared revenue, sales tax increases, Milwaukee County seems to have escaped for now, and I believe it's for now, the reach of Robin Voss and members of the Republican Party who wanted to say, hey, we don't value DEI. We don't value equity. We don't think that these things are an issue. And so with that backstory, we know that we still have an Office of Equity at Milwaukee County, and we know that the time is right to do a lot of work. So they have actually installed a new executive director, and we are pleased to have her in studio this morning. Is it Samaya? Is
Samaya,
it all right?
yes.
Because when you look at it, it always makes you nervous. But
A lot of letters.
yeah,
letters.
look, I'm like, I'm not that good this morning. But Executive Director Samaya Clark has joined us this morning. Good morning, sis. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, and also for the really wonderful introduction and just talking about the need for the work. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. And I'm telling you, when you walk in the room and somebody sees you, like, oh yeah, she the director of something black. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Solid.
I'm sorry.
Right on, sister.
I don't know if I should have said that, but she was like, yeah, she whatever she doing is got some black folks up in it, some concern, some advocacy, some fight. I mean, that's the thing, and you feel like when people show up on your behalf and it's genuine. And so I'm seeing you and I know a little bit about you, but I know there are people listening like, well, who is this woman Michelle is talking about?
Okay.
Now, what does she do? And how is she Sister Soldier #1? And I don't know nothing about it. So,
Okay.
Samaya, can you take just a moment before we even talk about your current role to kind of introduce yourself to people in the community who may not be familiar with your work? If you're from the city, how long you've been out here. People like to be like, where she go to school? All of that. I'm just telling you, you know your people. It make a difference. It make a difference.
It does.
So just take a couple minutes and just tell people a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So I am native to Milwaukee. And actually, my grandparents came here probably in the 40s.
Okay.
By way of Mississippi, stopped off in Joliet, and then moved here in the 1940s. So, that's probably a similar story to many people who live here. So bred in Milwaukee. Went to Rufus King High School. Go Generals!
So many leaders in this city.
Yeah, went
so
to the
many.
school, right?
Okay.
And so I have lived in Madison for a little bit. I lived in Jamaica for a little bit. I've traveled, but Milwaukee is home, so I
Okay.
always find my way back here. And
We'll have to talk about living in Jamaica one day. Oh my
okay,
God.
yeah, that was just like
So
for a short
cool.
amount of time. I was teaching there
Okay.
years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
so I've always looked for opportunities to engage in service to my community. Back in the day, I used to work for this organization called Rosalie Manor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for
so like a
sure.
lot of people.
I was
went
at
through
St.
there.
A's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yes, ma'am.
So started
Familiar.
in youth work with a whole lot of folks
Okay.
in the 90s. And it, kind of like I want to say like the bug bit at that time, and I just, stuck with it. So I've been
Okay.
doing youth work now for almost 30 years.
Really? Hey,
Youth work, community
the time
development,
goes.
community health improvement work. I've worked in government, education. So a wide array of, different sectors, all with the aim of improving the conditions for the people who live in the community. So that's like my lifelong passion.
So when it comes to this new role that you are in now, are you new to the county or have you been with the county for a while?
So, of course, new to this role, then I made it 30 days, but, when you think about, the what you're, really looking to do within your first 100 days, right? But prior to this role, I worked in the Department of Health and Human Services for 5 years.
Okay.
Yep. So in that role, I did a lot of strategy work, a lot of work around what our role was going to be in implementing social determinants of health work. And so basically, when you think about like, what is social determinants of health? It's really looking at the conditions that need to be present to make a community healthy. So do people have access to safe, affordable housing? Do people have access to, green spaces? If there is a park, is it safe for me to go out? Or do I need to have people like, my man over here who, does activities in Atkinson Park and things like that, right? To make it safer and to engage young people. So just thinking about what needs to be in place to make the community healthier. So I did a lot of strategy work for DHHS. We did work related to bringing young people home from Lincoln Hills and a lot of the youth justice reform work that the county has done. I've also worked on bringing more collaboration between disability services, aging services, because as our adults age, they need a different set of services that or programs or resources than young people. So I've had an opportunity to work in those different spaces for 5 years.
So the skill set is varied.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the actual Office of Equity, you're new to the Office of Equity. Is
Yes.
that so? This is a new chapter in this line of service. Okay, so coming in, I got to ask like what that has been like. So how long have you been in the role now?
30 days.
30. Oh, that's what you did say. 30 days. Ooh,
Yeah.
It's kind of rough because as you think about, and I'm sure now, having gone back and studied the history of why it was created, what it was intended to do, it looks like there had been a shift in some of that a little bit because when I first remembered it, it seemed like it was more inward facing.
Yeah.
Or at least somebody made it inward facing. We're going to look and see what we do within county structures and systems that may or may not be helpful to the communities of color that we serve or, that are equitable, our practices. And then at some point, it seemed like it shifted from an inward look to an outward look. And I'm going to just tell you, behind the scenes, we heard that it shifted because there were people that were within the county that didn't like being asked tough questions about, management, about who we hire, about who's given opportunity. And so people got shut down when they were trying to ask those questions. Now it's just the streets talking.
The streets. Okay.
But this was one of the things that we understood, we had understood might be happening. And then there became this outward focus. Oh, we're going to get out in the community, help organizations, help this, help that. I guess I'm interested to understand now going forward where the work has landed, because as you talk about 30 days and then not only the county execs or whoever, the county board of supervisors, their vision for this department, but also how you see this whole thing shaping up. So where are we landing now in terms of the work?
I appreciate that, and sharing a little bit about the history. And so, for some folks who may not be aware, the office actually started in 2016, and initially it was the Office of African American Affairs.
Right.
And to your point, there's like a lot of work, right? So if you think about like the history of oppression in this country, it's like hundreds of years, right? And so
Right.
when you try to think about one, what is government's
Could you
role?
send Nikki Haley the memo? But that's okay. Go ahead.
Oh,
Had a moment.
Oh, ooh. Ooh, I
Just
gotta
a
come
moment.
here every day. This
Yeah,
show is live.
just a
Let me
moment,
tell you.
just a moment. Small moment.
Oh my God. So when you think about, like what government's role is in addressing inequities, in addressing the disparities in terms of health and people's ability to achieve and thrive, right? There were lots of conversations and there's a whole lot of schools of thought in terms of like where we need to sit as a
Right.
county and what resources, what departments need, like what their role is in improving the health of communities as well, right? So I think that some of that led to the shifts that you saw. So at first, the idea was to say, okay, well, if we are going to work to improve the health of community members, we got to start inward. So we're going to start inward by looking at our hiring practices, workforce development, workplace culture, training, making sure people understand what we mean when we talk about systemic oppression, what we mean when we talk about health equity, right? So there was that focus. And then there was a shift to say, well, yes, that's important, but we also need to look over here and make sure that we have active connection to what's going on in the community. And so what I would like to do, and what I think is important, I don't think it's an either or. I think we need to get to the and. We need to be really continuing to think about what are the policies and practices inside of Milwaukee County, because there are many departments who are bought in, and now it's like, okay, so what does it mean? How do we begin to operationalize, or like basically what I'm saying is like, what does it look like? What does it take? What does it taste like? And what do we need to put in place to be able to continue doing the policy change internally?
Because this is my frustration. And you talk about creation in 2016.
Mhm.
Even though, you get the okay, we're going to do this, it takes time to ramp up.
Mhm.
So hiring took forever and a day.
Mm.
I remember having a conversation with county executive Chris Habley at the time. And I'm like, it don't take this long to hire an executive director. This is nonsense. Oh, we got a national search. We're looking all over the world. Hey, bro, this don't take all day. Get somebody hired. Because my frustration was there were white women that were hired and working in the department before there were even any people of color working in the Office of African American Affairs.
Okay.
I remember that, and so this whole thing has been a great consternation for me because I'm like, okay, we are 2006. Let me do the math real quick. 16 from 24. That's 8 years. That's 8 years. And I'm like, so what has materialized? Because I keep asking, where's the reports? Where's the data? What has been accomplished? Let's just say it took you 3 to get solid footing. In the last 5, because I see the money that's gone out into the community and supporting organizations, but where is the data right now that's been done so far that reflects what we've done? And I'm not just talking about, I supported a program, I paid for, an activity, and how those things have helped shift the paradigm, how those things have made a difference. And so that's the one thing I'm just going to say to you is that hopefully, and I know, and let me just be clear, Rick Banks, who's with the department, when I tell you that brother has come up in the studio and been a yeoman for trying to keep the message, making sure that he answered the tough questions. He was willing to sit in the hot seat when, even after Jeff had left and we talk about transitions. And so I respect Rick and I appreciate the work that this brother has done. But at some point, it's like put up a shut up time.
I feel you.
We need to know how this thing really is working. And when you start talking about dollars, because I'm sorry, I'm stuck on this is a finite period of time.
Yeah.
There are people hell bent on destroying and dismantling anything that's intended to seriously address the issues of people of color. And so much the way the city of Milwaukee was told that you can't use share revenue, sales tax funding, whatever, to be able to fund your Office of Equity or whatever theirs is called, African American Affairs. I think theirs is still called. And so they're like, well, we're gonna have to find money from another pot. I just think that there's a finite amount of time to get some of this work done. So when you think about vision going forward, like, have you thought about like what's first? Like, where do we go? How sleeves up? I'm here. What's first?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I want to first hit on what you were talking about in terms of measures.
Yes.
So like one of the things we've been trying to do at the county is to make data a lot more accessible. So there have been a lot of dashboards that are on the website now, and we're looking to add more to that. So like even transparency around how ARPA dollars were spent, right? I think that's really important. There's dashboards around that. So as we are building the capacity of the department, we are looking to have more dashboards so that people can see in real time what we're doing and like what the impact is, right? And numbers as well as like the actual outcomes on community. Okay. So that's something that's going to be important.
Because the one thing I know we talked about ad nauseum was the ability to actually, even in reviewing the county, who they contract with, if these are real contracts, because some was contracts on paper only. When you went to look and see if people really were getting clients referred to them or services where they could actually, benefit financially from this relationship, they weren't benefiting at all. So, hiring practices and, what the racial demographic makeup of the departments are and how many supervisors, like those were questions we were asking, and loose information was provided.
Okay.
So those are things I think that are important as you talk about stepping out into the community. We do have callers on the line.
Okay.
But I also want to make sure that people are understanding your vision.
Okay.
And how that gels with what the mission of the office is.
Okay.
If I can, let me take a break. Callers, hang on. You'll be first up. So we can get your questions in, and we will continue this conversation with the county's new director of the Office of Equity, Miss Samaya. What's your last name?
Clark.
I know. We'll be right back, y'all.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee. Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. I am thrilled to be joined in studio by the new executive director of the Milwaukee County Office of Equity, none other than Miss Samaya Clark. What's up, Miss Clark?
Hey,
You
good
got
morning.
fans checking
Good
in, people
morning.
like, that's my people. I'm like, okay, y'all, okay, stop blowing up my phone. I told y'all we had a guest. I did say I wanted to go to the phone line, if that's okay.
That's
and then I
good.
have a text that I also want to read.
Okay.
Let me go to the phone. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Greetings. How you doing, Sister Michelle, Brother Keon,
What up, brother Shiar? What's going
Brother
on?
Shiar.
Mr. Clark?
Good morning.
Definitely appreciate this subject matter. First, I definitely enjoyed that quote you gave earlier from Heavy D about black coffee.
Wait, say that
You know,
again.
cream. That's the type of girl I want on my team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Yes, see, bringing up the positivity, mature.
Brother
Back in
Shiar,
the day.
you
Yeah.
it's hard to hear you a little bit. Do you have us like on a earpiece or something?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Well, go
still
ahead.
hard to hear.
It's a little bit better. Go ahead,
Kind of
Doc.
sound like you're
Okay,
moving
so
the
what I
phone a little bit.
was calling about is number one, when I first seen the legislation for the Office of African American Affairs, it had troubled me, and I went to the office, and they tried to help me as best they could at the time. Is that anytime there's legislation, and you are aware of this, Michelle, is that for proposed legislation, it's sent out to all the departments that may be affected, and it says, how would this legislation affect your department? How much money is it going to cost? And if it is going to cost, why? And if it's not, why not? And none of that was filled out when it actually was passed. So I was like, how is this a real organization if there's no connection with what impact it's going to have on the different departments and what's going to be the cost? And so I haven't looked at the new creation of Office of Equity, which to me, if it's focused on what the true essence of the word is, not being equal. So we're not talking about being equal with people. We're talking about who needs the services the most. That's what equity is.
Mm-hmm.
How do we bring balance? So if we're doing that, it doesn't matter if you call it African American or Black, or descendants of Africans, because we need the services the most, and the money, resources should come to us the most. So what I was asking two things is, one, is that in the legislation is clear of how it's impacting the department? Because like you said also, Michelle, when I've asked this, it kind of, you just get a little bit of answer and nothing really neat that we can actually actualize and go back to these different departments on to check and see that they're living up to what they wrote in the notes to the legislation.
All right. Thank you, Brother Shiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'll just piggyback that with one of the text messages I received. It says, are there now actual goals and milestones to recognize progress being made by this office? What doors of opportunity is this office focused on opening in the county and state and federal programs where programs targeting the county? Example, community block grant dollars and how these funds are supposed to benefit this community. And is this directive being achieved? To sum it up, is this an office of change makers or gatekeepers?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so a couple different things. I want to go back to like right before the break. You mentioned, so there's a couple different things I want to touch on. So before I get to the text, one of the things that you asked about is accountability around hiring and leadership tiers across the county. So now there is also a dashboard that calls that out. So you can look even by department, the racial demographic break. So there's demographics around race, age, and several other category or dimensions of a person's identity that are listed there.
Right.
And you can look that up by like the also whether or not they are a direct practice staff person or a senior leader. So all of that information is there because again, the goal is to have transparency around that. So you
Good.
can look at that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to call that out. And then one of the other things that Brother Shiar was saying it is important to have accountability, right? And so just thinking about the way the Office of Equity is funded, when it first started in 2016 to now, the budget has almost tripled. And even
So
what's
what do those numbers look like though?
well, we're still like, right around, we have ARPA dollars, we have tax levy. So we're right around $1 million or so.
So, and I'm just gonna be candid, and I wanted to say that because it's one thing to hear our budget is triple,
Mhm.
but that's like me, and not for the purposes of this exact moment, but when you talk about transparency, just so people understand what those dollars really mean,
Okay.
because that's like me saying my son's allowance tripled, and his allowance went from $5 to 15, and then you like, okay, well, how much does $15 really do for you?
Yeah.
And so when people start to hear, like our budgets have tripled, but then when you say, well, okay, give me an idea of what the budget is, and somebody says $1 million, there does become a concern, like when you look at the county's overall budget, and how much does that budget really reflect a serious commitment to being able to help affect change?
Right. So that's in staffing. And then we have dollars for ARPA. We have dollars for other programs and that sort of thing, right? So I was, just to kind of break out like how the dollars are. Like even with ARPA dollars, we have like an additional $2 million to be able to do programming.
But ARPA was limited one-time funding.
It is limited
Yeah.
one-time funding.
And so, one of the things we've been asking, for other entities, not just at the county level, but city level, state level as well. And once those dollars are gone, the things that those dollars were helping to support and fund, how does that work continue? Conversation for another time.
Yeah.
But just one of those things that's out there because, I've said this a couple of times, like COVID was the best and worst thing that ever happened, to local governments and state governments, because this windfall of money, that ended up coming in to kind of subsidize all the damage that had been done. But please continue. So the way your vision dovetails, meets the expectations, the direction of the department. So what does that look like at this point?
That's a really good question. So in terms of the needs of the department, and the expectations that we have, so the county executive has committed to continuing to support the Office of Equity, right? So there's definitely a commitment from the administration.
And I just want to say he actually fought hard when they were doing the shared revenue discussion. He actually fought hard to make sure that office stayed intact during the shared revenue and sales tax discussion. But go ahead.
Yep, absolutely. And that's something like, even when I've spoken with him just as recent as last week, he's continued to talk about that. And he's also talked about the need to, because of, you're talking about this timeliness of the if you think about the contentious political environment that we're currently in, he's asked us to take bold steps to make sure that we can impact, the community in a positive way. So we do have that support. Some of the other things that we're looking at is our ability to sustain the work post ARPA, as you're saying, right? So there's goals of looking at the ways that we're going to sustain the work across, Milwaukee County and all the departments who are able to receive the funds, right? So there's definitely conversations and work to make sure that we can continue to do the work and we can continue to talk about it in a transparent way.
So one of the questions that was just posed to me is the ability to coordinate with the city's office, because while separate entities and there still has a specialized focus in terms of Office of African American Affairs, where is there an opportunity or where are there opportunities to, or have you all looked at opportunities to coordinate the work that's being done across those two levels of government?
Yeah, we actually have worked on quite a few projects together. There have been some national grants, like with the National Institutes of Health, that we've worked on together and done community engagement to make sure that community members know how to get access to care as a result of, like COVID resources and those sorts of things. So that's just one example of how we've partnered. So we definitely partner with the city's office.
All right, cool. So the phone lines are lit.
Okay.
But I do want to give you an opportunity to at least talk about your
the vision.
Yeah.
I know. It's just I'm trying to like jump.
Yeah, no. So, because they asked you this morning, what you got? What you got?
That's good. So thinking about, I'm going to go back, right? So you think about the county's vision. So like back in 2019, there was a declaration that, racism is a public health crisis, right? And then right after that, the county's vision is by achieving racial equity, Milwaukee will be the healthiest county in Wisconsin, right? So, and that's so important for a couple of reasons. For one, it's the first time that the county had engaged in a strategic planning process in over 20 years.
Wow.
So thinking about like the amount of effort that has been achieved like since then just to get this thing off the ground, right? And then it is such a direct statement around racism being, a public health crisis, right? So for folks who may not be aware, Milwaukee County was also the first jurisdiction in the United States to be able to say that. And since then, more than 200 other jurisdictions have followed suit. Even the CDC and other, organizations have followed since then. So I just kind of want to like throw that out there. And so you might say, well, why is that important? Well, if you look at Milwaukee right now, at the time of the declaration, Milwaukee was number 71 of 72 counties in the state in terms of health. We've actually moved up to 70. So you can say that's, but the reason that that's not as impactful is because
you see my face, right?
And I mean, and I'm feeling it,
and look, I'm not ever gonna look progress in the mouth.
No,
just like,
but it really isn't. But it really isn't progress. And the reason that it's really not progress is because the least healthy county is Menominee. So the only other
tribal,
amen, right? So the only other counties that are doing worse than Milwaukee right now in terms of the community members, their ability to be healthy are native and tribal lands.
Right.
So that tells you that there's, some systemic oppression that's contributing to that.
And then when you think about all the national indices, and I know a lot of people are like, can y'all stop talking about all the negative stuff about Milwaukee? But you can't ignore when somebody says Milwaukee County is, or the state of Wisconsin, I think it wasn't even Milwaukee County, the state of Wisconsin, worst place to raise a Black child. When, our home ownership rates are like at the bottom. When you think about where we used to be, at least before the 2008 housing bubble, and I shouldn't even call it a housing bubble, before these scam artists basically just crash the housing markets. You don't fix things if you're not willing to talk about them. You can't address what you're not willing to face.
Right.
And there's so many people like they want to sugarcoat it, or at least there are other things to talk about. I like what you said, and I'm a person who believes that too. We can do both. We can uplift the good and talk about the realities, or the things that need to be addressed and fixed. So I'm glad you said that. But I'm gonna take one caller because I see we lost one, and I want to make sure the community has a chance to talk to you.
Okay.
If that's okay. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the real estate. It appears, well, I mean, Shiar just got off, and this happened to Shiar. Shiar was foreclosed on illegally, but what he found out is that the county had cut and paste the city had cut and paste the county's paperwork onto his city foreclosure. Once he discovered that, I made a call on about 25, 30 houses that I knew was foreclosed on. And each one of them had the county's foreclosure document on it. I know it's impossible to foreclose on somebody in 60 to 90 days, So I'm wondering, is that something you're going to look into? How we lost, how we went from 67% home ownership in 2007 to 7% now, and why everybody who's buying a city property inherits debt because they haven't gone through the county and the county cleans title, whether it's a tax foreclosure or mortgage foreclosure, all go through the county. And so the county is not, so the city is passing on deeds with dirty titles to everybody, and that's half the problem. But the problem is people get scared because they see the county paperwork attached to their foreclosure, but the county, but the county has no record of the properties. So that's something you're gonna look into, because that's our loss of equity. I mean, that's what's going on.
All right. Thank you, bro. I'm gonna let her speak to it. Thank you so much for the question.
Yep.
So hopefully, one thing, Samaya, that you see is the diversity of when people think about how the county impacts, racial equity, how the county, and it's not just about, when we talk, this falls under the social determinants when you talk about housing.
Right.
But like I said, there are some real ways internally, an introspective look that the county could walk away and say, we could do things better. We could do things differently.
Right.
And I think that they're literally the first thing I had said, and I don't know if this had ever happened, but if I'm the director of the Office of Equity, the first thing I'm doing is holding a series of town halls to be able to go out and ask the community to come in. If you've been impacted by the county, or you have questions about the county, or blah, blah, you do business with the county, so I might have a series for business owners. I might have homeowners or residents, but I think that people have been trying to decide what they think the issues are.
Okay.
But then when you actually talk to the community,
they'll tell you directly what those issues are.
There can be very different things. Look at this call we just took.
Right.
This is not something I've ever heard anybody in the year or so that we've been having people stream through here that's on their radar. Okay. And if it is, it wasn't said on the, on the show, and that's fair. But just for somebody to actually talk to the people we trying to serve, to say, what do y'all need?
Right.
Because I remember telling Jeff Roman one time, you can't keep just throwing money at problems.
Right.
At some point, we got to talk about root and making sure we know what people are saying they need from us to be able to better help them. So I'm just so glad. Thank you, bro, for that call. I really appreciate that you got that in. But but please continue on with what you see, the work, and so where are the first areas you're focused on, and how you gonna get started.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. So,
and if your team is fully now,
so we are fully staffed. So we have a staff of 12. So I'm excited about 12. We have 12 now.
Okay,
so
that's exciting.
Way more people. And then even within the team, we have folks who specialize in different areas. So we have a person who specializes in policy analysis, right? And they're doing a comprehensive review of all of the policies around 8 areas within the county, right? So that's really important, because it will allow us to see, if there's policies that need to be changed immediately, and if there's policies that at face value may not seem like they have a disparate impact or lead to different groups having, a disparate impact.
Right.
So we're currently doing that work. And we're about 50%, 58% or so through the first phase of review. Okay. So we've made significant progress on that. And we're planning to be able to share the results of that with folks in the county as well as community members. So that's coming up. I just wanted to call that out. And we also have folks who are specialized in research and evaluation. So when you talk about yes, we've done a lot of activities, but in terms of the impact that the collective of those activities have in communities, if we're doing all this work, do people in a neighborhood actually feel the difference, right? And so we have people to be able to help us not only measure that, but then also communicate that back out to people who are impacted most, right? So those sorts of things are important. And we've really tried to make sure that the department is structured with people who are experts in the areas that we need to be successful. So there's that piece. In terms of the vision, going back to what we actually mean by health equity. So health equity is achieved when everyone can attain their highest level of health, right? And so we kind of talked about what is included in health, right? Is it safe? A community, is it safe? Do I have access to the physical health care? Do I have access to safe, affordable housing? If I do, and one of the things that I'm most interested in as well is actually aligned with what the caller just called in about, and that's like the economic development and economic well-being. Because when you think about what it actually takes to improve the health of communities, it's, you look at like political power. So do you have political power? Are there platforms for you to be able to come in, express your needs, as you said, like talking about the importance of community town halls and all those things, right? Well, the whole purpose of a community town hall is so that people have that platform to say what they need, because they should be able to help shape government, right?
Right.
So there's that piece. But then there's also like the economic supports that people have access to. And I think that's a space that we've not necessarily tapped into as much in the office, outside of the sponsorships and community engagement. So we're really looking to be able to ramp up the work around capacity building in addition to the work that we're doing around, the community engagement.
Okay, so you have a number of folks. Somebody said, so where is this office located? So
Okay.
they don't want to have to wait for a town hall to be able to send information, talk about
Yeah,
things and
we're
challenges
located
that
on
they see.
MLK and Clark.
Right.
So right. So and the purpose. So when it first started in 2016, it was in the courthouse, but at that time, like we knew the importance of being located within the community so that we can be accessible. So we're right on the corner of MLK and Clark,
Okay.
on the second floor, and with standard office hours and that sort of thing.
So someone else actually said, does the office have a legal support department that can provide citizens with information on how to navigate even the court system?
Okay, so that's fantastic. We ourselves don't have that, but we can help to get people connected. Like the office itself has, of course, we have like the Office of Court Counsel, but that's more for like county kinds of resources. But county needs related to legal or our department. But in terms of being able to connect them, like for example, if someone calls in, then we can say, oh, well, we don't have it, but maybe Aging and Disability Resource Center, for example, may have, a legal aid program that we can get that person connected to, as an example.
All right, so I'm just trying to, because they are
Yeah.
killing me
Keep them
this
coming.
morning.
Keep them coming.
But one other, and I have to bring it back up. When and if these community meetings should happen, people aren't notified, especially at the Clinton Rose, where the elders who participates at the center aren't at the meetings. Also, when the meetings are scheduled, if they are in our community, the turnout is low because the times that they schedule them for, never see them at the community. I don't know what that is, in order to hear from the community concerns. So I think that there are a lot of people that are because what I've been seeing in my thread of text or chain of text messages that are coming in is people saying, yeah, I'd like an opportunity to be able to talk about my experiences or what I think it is we need or some of the issues we face. And I just don't know. And I know Jackie's been around for a while. I don't know that I've seen that part of it done.
Okay, well, that's really good for me to know. So just to kind of go back to like just high level real quick, because I know it just
right.
For like the things that I want to achieve like within the first 90 days. So first 30 days, I spent a lot of time meeting the current staff, meeting folks across Milwaukee County and some other like community stakeholders, having meetings around there to try to figure out what their relationship with the office has been and like what they would like to see in the partnerships moving forward. There's also stuff around infrastructure and all that kind of stuff I've worked on. So now moving into the second 30 days, my goal is to continue having meetings in the community, again, with like different stakeholders, resident-based leaders, begin to look at some of the additional changes that we need to make in the department. And then just so that folks know, we've just completed our strategic plan. So we have a draft of our strategic plan for the office that outlines our goals and priorities. So that's what we're working on for the second 30 days. And then the last part, and I hear the music coming up.
Oh yeah, no, because you can actually, because we can do the break and then come back and get the last part. Yeah,
cool,
so you don't have to rush through it.
Okay.
So we'll be right back. Well, I mean, we gotta go, but
Yeah.
We'll do close. The break. So let me take a quick break. Michelle Bryant, WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Okay.
what we are hoping for. Finishing up a conversation with Miss Samaya Clark. You were going to give us that last 30 days in that 90-day increment of vision and planning. So what does that last 30 days in that cycle look like?
Yeah, so the last 30 days is when we actually wanted to do a lot of the community forums and the meetings and things, because I do want to have an opportunity to meet with and hear from folks across the county. That's important. Like, it talks about us having 12 staff. Well, we're 12 people who are here to serve the people, right? And so we can't do that without being directly connected to and hearing from, the people that we're here to serve. And so that's something that's very important to me. What I'd also like to do during those meetings and just share some of the initial goals that we have set out within the strategic plan to say, like, what do you think about this? Is this from, community members' perspectives going to get us to our desired goal of making things better for people who
Because I
live
think
here?
that's the other thing too, understanding what those goals are. So we're saying, like, to the point that the brother made, 7% housing ownership right now.
Right.
So are we saying that we'd like to see, indirectly, directly as a result of our work, that we see a county where we have at least 25% Black home ownership now, where we have so many people, that have had access to healthcare? Like, do they have you all identified benchmarks? Like, at the end of 5 years, this is where we hope the county is in terms of those social determinants of health. We are here at this percentage now. In 5 years, we want to be here.
Right.
Do we have that?
We're working on it. So we have the baseline information right now. And what
Okay.
I mean by baseline is like the current state, like where we're at today.
Right.
So if you think about like the work he talks about that Rick Banks is doing with Community Development Alliance, with Department of Health and Human Services, their housing service area, we know right now and there's a dashboard. I keep going back to the dashboards,
Right.
but there's been a lot of work to, like, again, have transparency and make sure that people know where we're at right now, so that, we can be held accountable to say, here's what we're doing to be able to make things better. So if we know right now about it, it would take about 33,000 new Black homeowners to have equity. That's where we're at right now. So there, through the housing plan with CDA and through other initiatives, there are efforts to be able to increase that number, right? So thinking about county resources, a significant number of ARPA dollars was used to increase the number of homes, affordable homes that people can purchase, right? Just in the COGS area, for example, 120 homes are being built. Right. So if you
Right.
kind of drive
Saw
around there,
that.
so that's like one sort of thing. But then we got to think about economics. So do people understand how to manage their finances so that they can keep that home, right? Or they can be able to start a business, or so that, they can they know how to address debt that they may have, right? Or, what are things that we can do to make sure that they have more access to healthcare, so that maybe they don't have to have as many of those bills. So I think there's a wide range of things that are needed in the community, and we have goals, but our goals are really high level. Like, do people so for example, one might be, do county departments understand like what equity is and how their processes or practices can be changed to improve it, right? So like that's super, super high level. And then we can begin to say, so then what are the specific activities that we need to do with county departments? What are the specific things that need to take place in communities so that there's a better pathway, so that county department processes are more responsive and reflective to the needs of community members, right? So that's kind of where our office would fit in, if that makes sense.
So it does. And I'm just going to say this in all of my frustration. One of the listeners, he texted me, he said, so Michelle, because we've heard like mention of strategic plans before, does strategic planning change with every leadership change? And, so I don't know the answer to that. But one of my frustrations is like when we talk about what's considered high level and whether or not these department managers and the staff understand what equity is and what the whole thing looks like. This has nothing to do with you.
Go ahead.
But it seemed like that should have been done a long time ago.
Well,
I mean, we 8 years in the game,
right.
and I know there was I remember when the change happened, which is still relatively recent.
Right.
But damn, we 8 years in the game.
Right. And that's real. So when you think about 8 years ago, remember I was saying before that there was these ends of like the spectrum. Like, is it more community? Is it more county?
Right.
So now the idea is to take the good elements from the previous work and say, okay, well, how do we do this, right? Which is the and. So I'm trying to get to the and right now. And so there is a lot of work. But to your point, we've had community engagement sessions. We've worked very hard on, like being seen in the community and supporting groups and all this sort of thing. And now we also know that there's an opportunity to build on that. So I think to your point, and I understand your frustration about, okay, 8 years in, what is the impact? Like, believe me, like I'm accountable, like to make sure that we are able to, I'm looking at the time, that we are able to, share with community members like that impact. But like I said, well, if you'll have me, I'd love to come back on and talk more.
Open.
Yeah, more about like the specifics, because I kind of feel like I was trying to answer questions from callers and that kind of stuff.
No. And it's a lot, and just first of all, I just appreciate the work that's been done to keep the office present, because some of these monthly meetings have not been easy, because you got to come in here, and then like when Jeff was coming in, things were happening at a slower level pace, and so he couldn't even, like, he was saying the same thing he said the month before. And you got to get up and come face that music and hear the community be like, bruh, this is not new. So it's a lot of work, and I think that the community is just hungry for the promise of what it could be,
right?
What that looks like. So we are here to support you in what you're doing. Are you trying to ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, what? I didn't know what you were doing.
Oh, the whole time, because let's get off of departments and let's get into individuals. You say 8 years, for some folks it's been 10. There are individuals that are born for certain things and have certain gifts. And, sometimes they have to be removed and elevated to get out of the way so you can see deficits, so that when their time comes, they're there. So this whole conversation, you've been messing with me all day. This whole conversation with Samaya is where the love is. And those who are on the grassroots level, there's not been a conversation, a meeting, a pop-up, in the streets, hello, where conversations like this don't come up with Samaya. This is her passion. This is what she does. She hasn't even gotten into herself about she just loves, she creates systems, trying to figure out how to get the outcomes. So when the bird flew by a month ago and said she was in this position, I was like, ooh, Meech. Remember Meech said, they gonna take that department, they gonna change the name, and this is what they gonna do with it. When I heard Samaya's name as the head, I said, we back on track. And this goes all the way back to the Office of Violence Prevention, to 414 Life, to the cooks that actually put things together that maybe they didn't get to, show what they were supposed to show then, and they were moved and elevated, but now is the time. Glad to have you in that department. I'm not even optimistic. I know this is the truth. She always wants to be community engaged. She always wants to talk to the people. And that's how, even at the city, we got to where we got to, where we're working with grassroots organizations.
Did you didn't say nothing I didn't say?
No, but I'm testifying, baby.
I hear that.
Let me be.
But I said
it's
that.
Been a long time. Listen, it's been a long time since I stepped out on a limb and endorsed and pushed for anybody.
Well,
I've learned my
lesson.
lesson.
Already had set it up.
I got you.
I gotta go.
But
the show is over.
I haven't played the music yet.
It's still 9 o'clock, whether you played the music or not. It's still 9 o'clock.
You see how
we gotta go. I told you.
It's love.
I told you.
I just want the folks to know that you have arrived.
Thank you.
Go on, hater. Say
all of that.
Say bye, woman.
White people. All right, y'all. I got to get out the way. I want to thank so much my Sarah over at the Milwaukee County.
You always say Sarah. Why you Sarah? People.
Because she always going to be a Sarah.
That's my people right there. I'm just talking about you.
I'm a hater up in here.
Boy, listen to her.
As you can tell, we are excited about your presence. Your reputation precedes you for a lot of people in this community. It was important for other people to get to know you and hear it from you. But we are excited. This is one of the first times that we really feel good about the direction that this agency is going, or this department is going to take. So welcome aboard.
Thank
The
you.
door is always open.
Thank you.
All you gotta do, go through your girl, make sure, and
Yeah. So
you in the building.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated the questions. And definitely, like, folks can reach out if they have more questions. And if you'll have me back, I'd like to talk a little bit more about like what those specific strategies are. Because
This was just an introductory,
Exactly.
introductory. So we'll do it again. All right, family. Now that Kieth has poured out his heart, his community activism, and he is so enamored with.
Yes, love you, Samaya. Come on, Kettle.
We gotta go.
Come on, Kettle.
Thanks, y'all.
We're like soldiers, some revolution. Now we're